Hey, everybody. It's great to be here and get ready to started with another episode of From Boxes to Butterflies. This is a show I've been really excited about from the moment she said yes, and I'll talk a little bit more about that before I bring her up. But first, I want to go into a couple other kind of announcements to start off with. And one of them is that I'm going to be having a workshop starting this Saturday is what I'm looking at. So I'm putting the final touches. It's kind of a real quick thing, but it's a workshop for authors to, one, work on their author page. So understanding what's involved and how to put together the author page in a couple of places, including Amazon. And the second part is creating your own Kindle or even paperback, going through the Kindle process, publishing process, and walking everyone through, because it really is a lot less expensive now to self-publish than going through the publishing process, which is why you see so many. Yet, it's also important to make sure that you understand the things that you need to do to make your book the best that it can be before it gets published. So, and speaking of publishing, it's like, this is the book that's out now that I self-published. So I've done this process with it. And Search for the Armor of God is also very much in line with what I talk about for moving beyond boxes and shine, because that's the story of the main character. And if you have read Search for the Armor of God already or getting ready to, the second part of the story will be coming out in the near future. I'm getting it, finalizing it, and my goal is for it to come out next week on Kindle and paperback shortly thereafter. And that will be the second part of the story of watching this main character move beyond the boxes that everybody had been putting him in to shine as who he's meant to be all his life. But now I am so excited to bring her up. One of the most important things about Sandra, we connected last summer, and there was just something about her that I couldn't wait to have one of those coffee chats with her. And when we did, it was wonderful. She's so easy to talk with. And then she had her own live and kept asking me to come on, and I kept deferring. And finally, in October, I said yes, went on, and it was the first time that I came on live on LinkedIn to actually tell my own story. So it was important to me that she was the one whose live that I did this on. So without much more ado, because she's got an amazing story, I love what she does, focused on women and helping them to grow. And I know she's got some announcements she wants to add. So here is the amazing and beautiful Sandra J Wilson.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on the publishing. That's really exciting, and I'm really happy for you. That's a great announcement to make. You're welcome. And the workshop coming up on Saturday, you said?
Saturday. So I'll set that up for Saturday morning from basically 9 to 11 for a couple of hours. And for some, if they want to do it in parts, there's an option for it, but it's definitely cheaper in the long run to just do the whole thing. So, and yeah, the amazing CJ is like, she had already announced it to the world before we had set it up. So, but hey, CJ gives homework. But for you, because we've been connected for quite a while. Yes, you're here. We're both here. Everything's working.
Is anyone else here? We need to know. Is there anyone else here? Let us know. We're just talking to each other. We've been talking to each other for like 10 minutes.
Well, yeah, and it looks
behind
like
the
there's some
scenes.
people at least watching, but
That's
yeah.
okay.
And it's always interesting to see actually comments don't always run into the StreamYard from LinkedIn at times, because I know that I've seen a lot of people, it's like, I put it on LinkedIn, but it didn't show up in StreamYard. So sometimes I don't see the comments until after the show, but they pop
Oh,
up.
I see.
Yeah.
Well,
So every once
I
in a
have
while.
I have LinkedIn up as well. I have the live up, of course,
Okay.
muted so that we don't have that
Right.
issue. But yeah, so but I don't see anything in either. But that's okay. People can talk. People, you know.
Oh yeah.
So what do you want to talk about today?
You are at the top of the list, obviously. And as we go through, kind of one of the things I always like to start with is to tell a little bit about yourself. And I know in your case, it can be a very long story, depending on what
Yeah.
you want to say, how much, and I see Boo. So uh, it's like there's a highlight right there. If we get a Boo sighting.
And he doesn't always sit there. I mean, rarely. He's usually under my desk, but today he's not really feeling that well today for some reason. So I have no idea. He's kind of moping. But there was somebody who said they wanted to see him today. I think it was Sadaf. She said, "I hope to see Boo." And I said he'll have a cameo. And now I don't have to remember to do that because he's already there. So if she watches this now
Excellent.
or on the replay, Boo is here. This is my sidekick, in case anybody doesn't know
And
Boo.
yeah.
Um, my story is long, and I actually it's so funny because the post that I made this morning was scheduled to go today, and then we had this. So that if anybody wants to know my story, that's it in a nutshell. So if you don't want me to talk about
Right.
it, it's all there. But yeah, I kind of have a weird. I always felt kind of, and I know I don't look like a type of person that was an outcast. I wasn't necessarily an outcast growing up, but I never felt normal. Like I always felt different for some reason. And maybe all kids do. I used to think like maybe all kids feel like me, but I don't know. And I used to talk to myself a lot, or I always felt a protection around me is where my spiritual side has always been ever since I was a kid. I always believed in something larger than myself, whether we call it God, universe. I think when I was a young kid, I called it God, but now I call it more divine source, divine energy, universal energy, because I'm not really a heavily religious person. I'm also not against religion for anybody out there. I'm just very spiritual, and it just feels better for me in my heart and what I've always believed that inherent in me as a child. So I kind of used to I was a fairly I was really, really shy, very insecure kid, but had a very strong sense of myself and was very good at athletics. And oh, there's Leslie. Hi, Leslie. There's somebody coming in. Thanks for saying hello. But I was really good at gymnastics and I excelled at things like that. But once it became competitive, I lost interest. I just kind of wanted to do things for fun. But parents
Yeah.
always want you to go to the next level. And then once it became competitive, all the fun went out of it. So I kind of, and then I broke my ankle and I didn't have to do it anymore. So I was like kind of relieved. But and another thing, a lot of people don't know this, but I do have three older siblings living. Like I have one brother that passed away in a car accident in 1987, but I have three living siblings and they're all much older, 8, 9, and 10 years older than myself. So there's 69, 68, and 67 years old. My sister is 68. Hi. And she was took piano lessons, and I just kind of thought, well, I guess I should take piano lessons. So a few years later I said, Mom, I want to take piano lessons. And then I hated it. I didn't want to do it anymore. And then they forced me for another 3 years, so I had to take 4 years, and my sister took 8, but she still plays piano to this day. I won't go near it because of that incident. I just like not interested. I didn't want to
Right.
do it. Now I like, but I am grateful for knowing how to read music. So I'm
Mhm.
grateful for that. And music is like a huge part of my life. I can't live without it. It's like the air I breathe. That's how important music is. I just don't want to play the piano. But that's kind of the rebellious the rebellious nature that I had at that time. But yeah, I kind of grew up very shy and became extremely insecure as a teenager. Always had some issues with my dad. My dad's 96, still the same, you know, just still difficult, but I tolerate, he tolerates, whatever. Um, but had a lot of questionable relationships, and then I met my husband. And I think I met my husband because I was in a really dark place in the relationship before. It was very abusive emotionally. And even though I was a really strong person within myself, it does cut you down after a
Mhm.
few years of being in that type of relationship. So what happened was I used to go to the bookstore, and I used to stand there in the self-help spiritual section, which happened to be together. And I just said, okay, where should I go? And just books just happened to not fall off the shelf, but there was a calling. And I would just pick a book, take it home, read it. And then I became like so strong within myself. And just the spiritual books that I connected with allowed me to really get my self-esteem back and my self-confidence back. And then that relationship just fizzled. It was like I had no interest in that whatsoever. I said, what the
Right.
hell was I thinking? It's like a wake-up call, And then that's how I met my husband, because we were actually friends during that time. He was in a bad relationship and so was I. And but we were really good friends. Like, we used to laugh together. It was so much fun. And then I looked at him differently. I said, he was out of his relationship, I was out of mine. And then I left that job where we had met, and then I missed him. And I thought, should I ask him out? And because he wasn't coming my way. And so I asked him out, and he said no. and I tried a few times, and he just said no. So I had to, when you're very spiritual, you have to let go, and then things come back to you if they're meant to be. So I had to really trust in the
Right.
universe that would bring him back to me. So I told him that I thought he was great, all this and that, but I won't bother you anymore. And it was probably 3 weeks later that he called me, and we were together for 22 years. Never apart, hardly any fights, just the perfect person for me. And
Mhm.
hopefully we were perfect for each other, but I can't speak for him. Because I can be a lot. Yeah, and unfortunately he passed away of a horrible disease, which you can read about on my website, whatever. And it was very traumatic. And I was 53 when he passed away. That was about just over 6 years ago. And looked after him during that time. We were financially bankrupt, pretty much. And so we couldn't hire someone to help with all of his needs and the feeding tubes and all that stuff. So I did it all. And it was probably it was the most difficult year of my life. Like, let's not be.
Right.
It was awful. It was awful, very traumatic. And then, a few years later, I got a real job because I hadn't worked in 20 years, and made some money, and then decided to get certified to be a nutrition coach, and then a life coach. And then I transitioned into grief coach. And then today I announced that I am no longer just a grief coach. I am a life coach. So that's what can happen when you're on LinkedIn.
And I mean, I've known a lot of this story, and I've seen a lot of the photos. And if there's one thing I've always seen in every photo that you shared, I don't think I've ever seen where he had anything other than love exuding from him in any of those photos that you had with him or were taken of him. It's like,
There
it's
was
so obvious you guys belong together.
Yeah, he had his eyes were it's so funny because when I look at his eyes in pictures, you kind of go, oh, I remember when, because that's all I have now are photos and memories in my head. And I look at his eyes and I see such life. And the interesting thing is the year that he got sick, like before he started falling randomly. So January, like it was actually New Year's Eve, which was also his birthday. And we got some pictures taken of like at the restaurant, and I could see his eyes just looked different. They looked He looked really tired, like more tired than normal. He always had dark circles under his eyes. That was just his signature Daniel look. But just something was missing for me when I looked at those pictures, even when I didn't know he was sick. And then within probably 4 or 5 months, he started randomly falling here and there, and we were like, "What the hell was that?" Like, he wasn't in pain; it just started randomly falling. But I could see it in his eyes when I look back at those pictures that year. I noticed he was more drawn in his face. And then he started choking on food and things like that. So it got pretty serious. So I know this is a really not the most happy subject to talk about, but I kind of was doing grief coaching for a reason, because I have a lot of insight, just in case you're wondering. Right. But
Well,
there's also,
and even when you and I, no matter which of our posts it was, as we have all those comments in the posts, we still, even there, we talk about grief, because you just never know when it's going to pop up. And when it does, sometimes you're like, what happened, until you figure out what happened and go, why? How did that pop up? So it's an important topic for many, because so many of us, we've lost a parent or a loved one, and too often it feels like we're told to hide it, or we get this feeling from society that you have to bury it, keep it in the house, keep it in someplace where nobody can see it. And yet neither of us are willing to do that.
well, the thing is, I really want people to be able to talk about it, because I'm trying to normalize it, that there's good and bad, there's happy, sad, there's shit, there's so much to it. And we go through so many different types of feelings, and nobody experiences grief the same way. And
Right.
that's kind of the point I'm trying to make when I talk about it, is that my experience is not yours, and yours will never be mine. And I was talking to somebody, Heather, I don't know if Heather's here today, but I was talking to her on Monday, and I said, even if there's a woman who's my age who had a husband for 22 years that had ALS, and she held his hand and died, and which is what happened to me exactly, her experience was still not being the same,
Mm-hmm.
because she's not me, I'm not her, we're not each other. We experience it differently, and we may carry on. Like somebody wrote in the post today that they didn't know what to say to their sister whose husband passed away 2 years ago. Should she get on with it? And I said, that's up to her. And it's not up for us to give advice and say, you need to get over it, because that's the last thing I want to hear. Don't tell me to get over it.
Exactly.
And I said, and it took me a good 18 months to feel normal, not to say that I was completely healed. And I would never say I was completely healed. I believe, like when we get physically hit, or we hit ourselves, or we scrape ourselves and we get the scabs will heal, scars don't. We can have a scar on our physical body for life. It doesn't mean that we're still in pain, but it's still there. And then we look at it and remember how we did it, like it brings back all of those feelings. What did
Right.
somebody say? I'm sorry, I'm not getting all the messages right away. Hi, Leslie. Mention that we all need to hear what I experience is not your yeah. Yeah, get over it is insulting. Not that people say get over it, but they say it in a way like, I was said, I think it was about not even a year after Daniel passed away. Are you dating yet? So it's a similar thing is like, first of all, it's none of your business. Um, it was, somebody very close to me. Um, and I was like, to me, you don't know how I feel about that kind of situation. When you're with someone for 22 years and you have a really good relationship, you don't just get over it. I'm still not kind of over it. I'm more open now, but it's 6 years later. I haven't
Right.
dated. I haven't dated at all. I haven't even cared to date. It's just not something that was in my forefront of my brain. And that's okay too. There's also people that get married within a year, and that's okay too. Because we all have a life to live and everyone has different priorities. I knew my sister-in-law, who my brother passed away in a car accident in 1987, August 31st. Um, and she was married to my brother for 10 years, had 2 little kids under the age of 4. And she got married, I think the following year, and we were all still in huge grief. My parents were never the same, but I didn't judge her because she had a life to live and she had 2 young kids. And
Right.
actually the story was, and I didn't know this until years later, Brandon, who was the older child, said, "Can you find us a dad?" I was gonna cry. So she took it to heart, like, he needed a dad, so she found one, and they're still together this year. They got married in 1988 and they're still together. It's 2023. So, no judgment there, but some people were very hi, Tanya. Some people were really judgmental of her doing that, and it was like a diss to my brother, and it's like, no, he would have wanted that for his kids.
Exactly.
And who are we to say whether he would or wouldn't? We don't know, right? So that's why I'm really careful about being judgmental of other people's experience, whether it's grief or whether it's transitioning, whether it's divorce. We don't know what other people are experiencing, and we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. When I went through what I went through with Daniel and the stuff that I had to do for him, like, I just became less judgmental of other people, because you never ever know. Would you say divorce, not really seriously dating? Is that
Yet.
what that sounds like what I said. Are you just repeating back what I said?
Well,
Hi, Dr.
you
New.
didn't say yet.
Ah,
You didn't say the yet on the end of it.
yeah,
See,
yeah. It's
there's hers again.
definitely
She ends with a yet.
yeah, but I'm not like it's something that I said to myself last year, that I'm like I said to myself, I don't really talk to people about it because it's no one's business, but if someone asks me a question, I'll definitely answer. But I just said, I think I'm open. I think I'm open. I think it'd be nice to go for dinner. I think it would be nice to
Right.
talk to someone, but it didn't happen last year or this year because the other things are more of a priority for me. But I am open. I'm not repeating. It's my story. Sorry for not being clear. Okay, so you were married for 22 years. Oh, it's just weird. I thought you were repeating back to me, Tanya. So that's her story, and she's not ready
Yeah,
to
that's
date yet.
hers.
That's so funny. We have so many. I have similarities with a lot of people, and you never know until you start telling your story how other people relate. Like, you think, oh, my story's so unique. No, we all have stuff. We all have our shit and our things to get over, and our boxes that we put ourselves in, and other people, like you said in your post the other day about other people putting us in boxes. I think
Right.
it's really, really true. I think that's happened to me a lot, and the jokes, dumb blonde jokes and stuff. And it's like, well, this is hair color, first of all. But you know, there's a lot of non-dumb blondes. It's just so people tell these jokes, they're
Yeah.
funny, but it's another box that people put you in, and it's like, oh, that's really funny. You do the fake
Yeah.
laugh. Ha ha. Ha."
They
I'm not good
stick
at
you in these boxes, and that's all you are to them.
yeah, and
It's
that's
almost like you can't do anything to get out of it, or it's the boxes we put ourselves in because of society, or just because of our own experiences growing up, like imposter syndrome, where it's our own fear that lives with us in that box that keeps us there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, but if we allow other people to penetrate our spirit, it can happen, but we have to allow it, and we have to go through the motions of getting our strength back, and that's what I went through in my 30s. So I was at a place of, kind of picking up the pieces of that abuse that I was going through, that I allowed to happen and that I knew
Mhm.
was happening, but I didn't really have a name for I didn't think it was abuse. I just thought, he's just an idiot. He doesn't know what he's saying. But it did affect me because I remember the first few years of the relationship I had with Daniel, I would talk about some of the stuff he said. He says, "That guy was a fucking asshole." Like, how, like, and you're kind of scarred from it because after a few years, you're still talking about it. And he didn't mind. Like, he knew that I'm a
Right.
talker. I need to get stuff out, and then I'm good. But I had no one to talk to about it because I didn't trust anybody. And Daniel
Yeah.
was the first person that he was my friend too. So he was my friend first. So I felt like, well, I can tell stuff to my friends. Um, but I didn't realize it was abuse until I couldn't, like, I didn't let it go for a while, you know?
And that's, it's so hard to find those people that you can open up to, because I called it death by a thousand cuts, verbal
Ooh,
cuts.
that could be a book, the name of a
Well,
book.
it may at some point, but that's what it is, because of all the stuff that's said. You talk about the emotional, because verbal is part of emotional abuse. Abuse doesn't have to be physical, and sometimes it's almost worse when it is that mental, emotional, because you don't know
Carry
what
it.
to do, and you're so stuck, and you feel like it's your fault for everything when it's not necessarily your fault. It's just the words that you hear. It's one cut after another, and after a while, you just numb yourself to it.
Yeah, I think I got used to it because it was such a long time coming, but it was also, he was the type of person that would put you on a pedestal like you're the most amazing and then cut you down in the same sentence. So it's like oh, eh, oh, you know? And it's a he was a narcissist. It's part, I think he was actually a sociopath, to be honest with you. I think I attracted them at that time because predators can see and feel your weaknesses.
Right.
This is what I came to realize when I did a reflection over my life, which I do often, because after that, before Daniel, but after that relationship, I attracted another predator. I only dated, there was not a serious relationship, but he was just horrible. And I was thinking, what kind of road am I going down here? Like, this is just going crazy. So reading the spiritual books for me saved my life. I know that for a fact. And I believe reading is essential for us to experience um a part of ourselves. Like, we get to know ourselves so much better through other people's experiences or other people's written words. So I didn't know we were going to be talking about this today. Like, I didn't rehearse anything. This is just coming up, but I probably, because we were talking about writing before, but spiritual books saved my life. Reading saved my life. And I read more books in maybe 2 years that I've read since. Like, I don't read as much now. I don't have a lot of time, so I do audiobooks when I'm doing other things
Mhm.
just to get them in.
Right.
I don't remember the last time I actually read a book, which is shame, shame, shame on me, but I'm making up for lost time because when you we lost everything in 2014, our house, our assets, everything. And that was kind of the beginning of the end for Daniel. And 2 years later, he starts falling and then he's dead in a year from that. So from 50 to 53 was the most traumatic experiences of my life. So I'm, you know, not having an income for such a long time and then having one finally and then getting certified and then the income goes down, it's like I'm making up for lost time because I'm going to be 60 in 3 months and I don't have a lot, you know? So
Right.
that's why I'm not dating. I'm focused on I have to make money. It's more important to me than dating. It's more important to me than anything. Somebody said to me, if you had $1 million in the bank, would you date? Yeah, I'm honest. I would, but I'm not thinking about it because I'm thinking about I have to retire. I'd like to retire one day, but I'd probably still continue working, but I would like to
Right.
have enough in the bank to be in a place where I don't have to worry anymore. And I'm not worrying now because that doesn't create abundance. I'm not in that negative mindset
No.
anymore, but it's the I have to be realistic. I can be positive and be realistic at the same time, is that I need something to fall back on and it's not there yet. So that is my priority. And
Mhm.
fortunately, I don't have kids to take care of, just this one. That's it. So, and me. Me.
Exactly. But I mean, a lot of us are in that boat, and I'm only a year behind you. So,
I know. I know. But,
and
I'm sure
but
you have a bit of retirement.
we all have our situations, and we work through what we can, and then just work at building up everything else that we can. Um, and it's great seeing everybody that we've already seen, because we've had that connection with Tanya for such a long time too. She was from last year. Think I think she was on your show too, wasn't she?
No, I don't think we met until after that,
After
or
that.
if we did, we just didn't connect at that point, so I don't
Okay.
know. I was on her show. She asked me
Okay.
on
That
hers,
might have been what I
in the
remember.
summer. I think this summer, but I had closed the show December of last year. I did my last episode. I think this week was, a year ago was the last time I did it. But, I loved doing her show. It was so much fun. But, yeah, so I've made some decisions. I don't know how much. Oh, we got half an hour.
Oh,
All right.
we got a half an hour. You got lots of time.
Yeah, I'm not telling anybody anything. But yeah, so it's been an interesting road and a lot of things. I noticed the spiritual part of my connection went away during those years. I think from 50 to 55, actually, I should say 50 to 58 last year. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think I started writing about my spiritual journey in 2022 or no, wait a sec, it's 2023. So it was probably March of this year that I noticed I started seeing signs and started listening and started hearing the whispers. I have a couple posts I did whispers, but
Right.
really, I think I did my first spiritual post back in March. And that really, when I reconnect with source, which is the universal energy, which we all have, this is what my beliefs is that when we're actually connected, we become more aligned with who we are and who we're supposed to be and who we're meant to be. And sometimes we lose sight of that when we go through trauma and grief because we vibrate at such a low level. Our energy is very low. So we don't really connect and we can make a lot of bad decisions during those times. And, because we were in a negative mindset, my husband and I, in the, after we loaned this huge sum of money to a friend and we never got it back, that was the trajectory of our downfall. So we trusted someone. Bye. Thank you, Leslie. Thanks for coming and thanks for letting us know you're here. Everyone, let us know you're here. We need to hear you.
Well, that's just it. A lot may be trying, but there's LinkedIn issues too.
It's a delay. There's definitely a delay I've noticed, because I can see us on the other one, and it was definitely delayed, but that's okay. I just, yeah, so we were vibrating together at a low level. So we made bad decision after bad decision, and it just put us into a horrible place. Obviously we lost everything, and that was a tough pill to swallow. And I just noticed I'm vibrating at a higher rate. I can feel it. I can see the signs. I can feel a lifting. And that's one of the reasons I moved. And moving was, as you know, extremely traumatic for me,
Right.
because it brought up the moving that I had to do after Daniel passed away. Moving 3 times in 18 months is stressful, but
Oh, yeah.
death and money and moving are 3 of the top stresses, and I had all of those all together. So the thought of moving after 4 years of being comfortable was was tough. I didn't and I was like, why am I not packing? Like, I need to pack. I need to leave. Like, I have no choice. I'm leaving. I made the decision. I've already paid rent at the other place. I need to go. And I put it off for a month. I actually paid an extra month's rent at the other place because I wasn't packing. I needed the time. And then once I did it and I did the big move, I just had a complete breakdown. Like, I was not expecting it at all. I cry over everything, but I wasn't expecting to cry over that. But it was really traumatic. But once I cried it out, I was great, you know?
Yes.
I don't hold on to stress. Definitely not.
It's I look at it as the healing power of tears. So it's whenever it happens, and it's like for me, that door got opened in a big way right before my mom passed.
Mm,
And I I think a lot of what happened to me just kind of got supercharged with her passing, with with opening up the emotional floodgates that had been locked up for so long, that I find myself tearing up at movies and all over the place. But then some of these times when it happens, especially if I know what that cause was, what the pain is that's there, I just see it as washing away the pain. As the tears come out,
mm.
the pain goes with it. And it won't take it all probably, but it reduces what's hiding in there.
I really like the way you put that because again, as you know, like I talk about this, I've talked about this on probably all the lives I've done, is I'm a very emotional person, but I get over it.
Mhm.
I don't hang on to the stuff, and I don't find crying a weakness at all, because I know I'm a strong person, so therefore that negates that right away. But once again, I don't have a lot of anger in me. Like when something pisses me off, it's kind of like, but I don't hang on to anger, and I don't connect with the emotion anger like I do with sadness and trauma. And you know, when I watch a movie and I see someone crying, I cry. Like it's just like the the empathy in me is very, very strong, and
Right.
I feel the pain of other people. And sometimes it's hard for me to control that. Like I know some people can hold back. It's really, really hard. And if somebody comes to me and or says something to me are you okay? You're gonna cry. It's like, oh, I'm done. I'm gonna cry now. Like, don't point it out to me. Yeah. Tears have so much to say. True, Tanya. But as I said, I think that's one of the reasons I'm really healthy is because I cry often, and it just allows me to release. That's kind of my release with whatever I'm feeling.
Right.
Um, and I to me, it's a good thing. And you know, I don't cry as much when I tell my story unless I tell the details. I was telling the details to my new neighbor on poor
Right.
thing on Saturday. And well, she's asking me questions, and you've asked me a question, I'm going to give you an answer. Like I don't have any secrets, you know? So, but I also have to give you the entire story so that you understand how it works, you know? So I
Right.
was telling her, and then I was like, and then doing the ugly cry in the coffee shop, but they've seen that before there many, many times. Um, but then she in turn like said to me the same thing you said. She says, "You're so easy to talk to," and I said, "That's because I share everything. It's easy to talk to me because I share all my secrets." She told me something in which I will not share, but she
No.
told me a story that she says, "I have never told anyone about this in my entire life." And I said, "How old are you?" She says, "How old do you think I am?" And I was like, "Oh, that's a trap." I said, 30? She goes, "I'm 22." And I go, "Holy shit." Like she's so mature, and she's had a really incredible experiences in her life.
Right.
But she says, "You're so easy to talk to, and I can't believe I just told you that." And I said, these are the conversations. I said, "I am an INFJ. I'm an introvert. So I don't like small talk. I don't like, hey, how's the weather?" It's not me. We were talking about spiritual stuff and experiences and past lives and healing and trauma and all that stuff, which is deep, deep shit. And I'm getting chills. Like, this is the kind of thing that interests me. This is why I do
Right.
what I do. And when you're coaching, you're listening to stories. They're not talking about the weather because they're paying to get some help, right? So when money's on the line, you don't waste time. But for me, when money's not on the line, I still don't want to waste time. And I've always
No.
been like this. I know when I was in my 20s, I had a fairly good sense of myself, even though I didn't know who I really was at that time. But I know I came across as a bitch because I was like, "Oh, do we have to talk about this now? Like, can we talk about something else? Like, I'm not interested, you know?" And it was hard for me to hide it. Like, I can hide it better now, but I, I'm just telling you, it's just not who I am. So I don't go out of my way to make small talk because it's doesn't interest me. I don't know if there's anyone else here like that, but, let us
Well,
know in the chat.
I'm I'm very similar to that. I have difficulty with the small talk. Part of it part of it was a self-defense mechanism.
Mm,
I never quite got into I didn't want to do small talk, so I never really got into it. I wanted the deeper conversations, yet I had to be very careful about who I would have that kind of a conversation with, because if I open up deep, that means I'm letting the walls down, and it's quite possible somebody will find that piece of me that I'm trying to keep hidden so I don't get hurt. And it's so I see that similarity because I don't know how to just go in and say, "How's it doing?" Or I can do that, but it's just, I see comments that really that's all it is. It just feels like the frosting, but it doesn't have the flavor to it.
that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's sometimes I know it's necessary sometimes to start off a conversation with the pleasantries, but I wanna talk about stuff that means something.
Mhm.
And to me, there are certain things that are really interesting to talk about. Like, I don't wanna talk about politics because if I don't know where you stand on stuff, that's gonna be a fight. And I'm not interested. I don't wanna have confrontations with people, so I'm not interested in politics. Unless you believe what I believe, then we can talk about it, but otherwise don't. Just soft limits. But everything's become political, so it's like horrible. Um, but so the spirituality thing has been really incredible for me because connecting connecting with my higher self has really given me clarity. And it's one thing that there's been not a cloud over me, but something has been blocking me for a long time. And I didn't know what it was because it was like, I have a clear moment. I go, yes, 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 yes. And then nope. Or it's something kept, it was like I'd move forward, like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps, and it's just driving me crazy. And so I found this woman. Again, I don't know. She said she was coming. I don't know. Heather Finch, and she's amazing. So she reads the Akashic records, which some people may not believe in. It's kind of a metaphysical library of our past, present, and future, like where all of our like past lives, future lives, all that stuff. And I had read about the Akashic records probably 20 years ago, and I've never heard anyone talking about them. So it's like, oh, it's one of those things you can't talk about. And so when I said she read the Akashic records, I said, oh, I am going to stalk her a little bit. I'm going to be a lurker, like a lot of our clients are. And I'm frozen. Can you hear me?
But I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Oh, now I'm not frozen, but I was like, can she hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. So, but it's weird, that happened when I was talking about this, like, ooh. So, I said, okay, I am going to make an appointment with her. I didn't want to connect with her on LinkedIn. And I made an appointment with her, or I had an idea to make an appointment with her, but I kept putting it off for a couple of days. Not putting it up, but it was like, oh, my credit card's over there. I don't feel like getting it. Like, it just never really happened. And then on a Saturday, but I didn't remember the day, but on a Saturday, I said, I've got to do this now because I want to do this. Like, I can't stop thinking about it, yet it wasn't getting done.
Right.
So finally I get it. I booked the appointment, and it was probably on the Wednesday after that. And then I had my reading, which blew me away. It's recorded. So I've watched it 3 times, and it's supposed to be an hour. Of course, you know me, I talk a lot. So it was an hour and a half. Poor Heather. And, but it was incredible. Like, it was an incredible experience. I got such clarity. And she said to me, one of the reasons you had a clearing on Saturday. And I go, did I book this on Saturday? Like, you could see me saying, did I book this on Saturday? I'm sure I booked it before that. She says, no, but she says there was a clearing because you'd had this shell that you had been carrying around for years. And it's from somebody who passed away a few years ago. And you may or may not know them, but you were in their vicinity or something like that. And I knew exactly who it was, obviously. Right.
Right.
But she didn't know my history. And she says, but that went away on Saturday. And then I booked on, like I said, I booked on Saturday. I didn't remember. And and then she just talked about 3 incidents in this lifetime. And she gave me the ages of the incidents that happened to me with negative thought forms that I needed to clear, that I can clear. The one thing is, if there's anything negative around you, you can clear it. So it's not like it's going to stay with you forever, or a haunting or anything like that. And it's just kind of basically blocks your progress. And this shell was protecting my heart. And that's where it was. It was in my heart chakra, which is why when I did breath work this year for the first time, I had like a lot of pressure on my chest when I was doing it. And now it's cleared. It's interesting. But I just got such clarity from that. And I just realized where all these blocks and negative thought forms. And then she gives you a 21-day clearing exercise to get rid of that, which I just finished yesterday. So it's been 21 days since I had that appointment. And from that, because I had such an incredible experience, I decided that I am going to get certified to read the Akashic records as well. So I am working on that right now. And that was one of my announcements. And that's my story.
Oh, that's cool. I'd never heard of those before. So just having you talk about it, it's like,
Well, let me see, I'm frozen again. Okay, there we go. I'm going to read this to you. So this is from Gaia.com. While many describe or explain the concept in different ways, like what are the Akashic records, In essence, the Akashic records are believed to be the repository of every thought, word, and deed of every living being, good, bad, and awful, in times past, present, and future. It's a compendium of knowledge of all life forms and entities, but those familiar with the records report that there is no judgment or implied penalty in the records. They are said to simply be a record of each soul's journey through the infinite. So that's kind of like what they are. And the Akashic, actually, the word Akasha or Akasa is the Sanskrit word for astral light. So, but some people don't believe that these exist, and that is okay. I'm not telling people to believe in anything. It's just what I personally have believed in. And when I had the reading, the way I was speaking to her, like, because I believe that I've believed for many, many years that we choose our parents for a reason. So we're not necessarily just came for like, oh, this is, I just born of this people. No, I chose these people for a reason, to learn whatever I needed to learn from them. And and I believe the siblings, and we choose this body, we have this soul. And so basically she asks our soul, like she has to ask our permission to read our Akashic records. You don't just go into somebody's records, you have to ask permission. So she asked me, I said yes. And she requires your birth date, your place of birth, and your full name at birth, and your full name now if it's different. And there's a separate protocol for people who are adopted. There's a separate thing that they can do if they don't know certain things. So that's a separate thing. But it was just an incredible experience, kind of a life-changing moment, even though I've believed in all of these things before. It just to have that clarity on my direction and where I want to go. And then it was like, it was just clear. I'm adding this, and this will help me with grief clients as well,
Oh, yeah.
because I can, if I ask their permission and I can read their records, then I can understand some, because they may be carrying trauma from another life or from something that happened years before. And that way it gives me kind of a better idea of where to go, as opposed to them giving me information, because sometimes we don't know where the blocks are coming from. And I
Right.
want to know on a soul level where mine are coming from. And now I have that plan. Hi, Boo. You saying hi to everybody? Yeah, he's not feeling good. He looks like a mess. But yeah, so that's the one of my announcements. And the other announcement is that I had kind of a vision come to me after a breathwork session a couple of months ago. And I didn't announce it then because I wanted to have more clarity,
Mm-hmm.
but I will be opening up my practice to men. So I'm feeling comfortable with. I wasn't comfortable with it for a while because of past experiences and things, but I
Right.
feel so much stronger and so much more powerful having all of this information that I've got recently. And so that is my other announcement that I wanted to make. Yay.
A lot going on.
A lot.
But none of it really surprises me
I don't
when I
think so.
just think
Not
about, yeah, just in terms of kind of how much I've known you and followed, and in what chats we've had. It doesn't really surprise me at all. And I mean, I never heard of the Akashic records before, so that's kind of its own
That's the
piece.
new one. Yeah.
But
I
that's
don't
like
think you're
totally new.
surprised at
It's still
you're not,
a
yeah,
surprise.
you're not surprised at my spiritual journey, but
No.
you're just like, well, I think you're more that's interesting. I never heard of that before. So she's going to go look it up after this, everybody. I know she is.
A lot to look up. But yeah, because I've never quite, it's always been interesting to be around some of the different people that I have been, that and the different beliefs that they have, and to see some of them that feels like there is something, and others it feels like I'm not so sure about. Um, because I've been around some that they said they talk with spirits,
Mm,
and
yeah.
when I said something, It's like I'd ask this question, and they're talking with spirits, and they're like, "Do you believe this is going to happen?" I said, "Yes," and they're like, "It's done. It never happened."
Yeah,
So
and yeah, well, some people, I believe there are some people that are very gifted and can speak to people on the other side. I absolutely believe that. This is not that. This is actually like the person who read me is actually a psychologist as well, so she kind of uses that as science based, but it's not like your okay, so tell me about Susanna. It's not like that at all.
right.
Um but again, I don't want people to come to me if they don't believe. If
Oh
or
no,
if they're skeptical, that's skepticism is a good thing. But if you're like, I don't believe in that shit, then you're not for me.
nope.
Um and that's okay. And you don't want everybody to come to you. You want people that want to make their lives better, that are open-minded, that want to find out things, but might still be skeptical. That's a good thing. Skepticism is, I think, a very positive thing, even though people think it's a negative light. I think skepticism is a good thing, because it makes you ask more questions, and
It does.
it's good. For me, I was in, like, I was all the way in, and found it a, a fascinating experience, and that I want other people to feel the way I felt, for that, and that's what I want. And business blocks, if you're blocked in your business, you can't figure it, like, you're happy and you're going through life. I was very, very happy for the last few years. I have great moments, but there's something missing. There's been something missing, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if it was my
Right,
purpose. I didn't know if it was that I don't know what I'm doing, that I'm going down the wrong path. And now I will eventually, I'm getting certified, so it'll take a couple months, but I will be able to go back and read my own records or ask questions about, am I going in the right direction? And that to me gives me a feeling of safety and clarity, that I have somewhere to ask these questions, that is my higher self. And because I don't like asking other people that don't know me. I don't ask for advice. I'm not one of those
right.
people. I'm a loner. And she found that. She says, I know it's going to sound weird, people, but although I was born on Earth, a lot of people are not actually born here. They're born other places. I didn't stay here for very long, and I went to a place called Spica. This is weird, but it's a very isolated place, not a lot of people, and you're probably very comfortable on your own. And she doesn't know me. She didn't know me at the time. And I go, that's exactly me. And it's not just that I'm an INFJ, it's from, because that's where I'm from. That's where I relate. And she says, it makes complete sense. It made complete sense to me. This just sounds so weird to people. I don't care.
Well, yeah, and it's actually, I know I have some of this because when I have some stories that are in their own various progress, that really does touch on a lot of things that are similar to this, where it's like spirit versus body. Just I've got one character that gets locked up in a jail as the spirit because somebody tore the body apart from the spirit. And so
Wow.
the body keeps getting reincarnated, but then the spirit's doomed to walk the earth to basically never see its body, so it can't become whole again. And yet something will happen, and then that whole history starts to get opened up because of this guy ends up in a cell. She touches him, and it's like boom, the connection is back because the body was guaranteed to be not recognized by the spirit, and it could be anybody. And so suddenly it's like, so I have stories like that as well. uh,
Cool.
so
So
yeah.
interesting.
And as we kind of close up, it's like I knew this would be the case, especially with you, it that we could just keep going and going and going.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm being respectful. I said I got to get this in the next 10 minutes.
No,
So
and
I'm talking
actually,
like a jerk.
no, everything is great, and I'm so glad with everything you've shared. And at this point, it's like if you have any kind of golden nuggets you want to add, and I say add because like I feel like you've dropped so many as we've
I
talked
know.
already.
I've so much going on and this so much in my brain, but no, I'm just really excited to add this modality to my practice, and I think what will happen from there, what I expect to happen, what I know will happen now, is that it will attract people who can't afford my packages. Because uh, you know, I am going to be offering oh, that was the other thing. Yeah, we'll be offering different packages on one-offs and three-offs as opposed to because I right now I have like a 3 and 6 months and 12
Mhm.
months because it takes time for healing. So that's why it's doesn't happen in one session you're healed or and and I'm not a healer, but to facilitate healing, it takes time to do that. So I will be doing these Akashic readings, which are an hour, so you can get to know me. Well, not really know me, but you'll know yourself better. But that's going to be great. And then if people go, I found that I want to have more coaching, then that's kind of a way in because a lot of people don't want to make the commitment to themselves or to me to do that. So that way, it's just another option. And I think, and if it goes really well, and I don't do maybe I won't do coaching anymore. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
It's always hard to tell. Anything can happen. And
Anything can happen.
that's the
I'm
joy
open.
of being as unique as we are and not being in a box. You gotta do what you
I am
gotta
not
do.
in a box anymore.
No, you're not.
I didn't, that's the thing I was going to say to you. I didn't know that I actually put myself in a grief box. And somebody said to me on Thursday, it was Geraldine Spurway. She said to me, "You are not a grief coach, Sandra. You're not. You're a life coach." And I was like, holy shit. Like she didn't know what I did when I told her. She says, "No, you're not. No, you're not." And even though we're connected on LinkedIn, she doesn't look at my stuff. She doesn't really know. And that's what I love about her. And she just said, we met and she says, "You are not a grief coach." And I was like, well, maybe I'm not because it's like I wish it was going really, really well, but it's really hard because not everybody wants to talk to a stranger about their grief. So
Right.
when we're in those places, we're either blocked or we need to open up to other ideas and we can pivot, we can change, we can add, and no excuses and no apologies. That's it. No apologies.
No
Going
apologies.
forward.
And I'm gonna kind of drop back to something else that you'd said too, because you commented about knowing you knew that things were bad, and I can't remember the whole context, but you were stuck and you knew you were stuck. And one of the things that I've been saying recently is if knowing is half the battle, then awareness is that first step. So once you have the awareness, I mean, they can seem like the same thing, but they're really not. Awareness is you know that you have that understanding that you can do something. You're not stuck. You don't know you're stuck. You now are aware that you can make a change. And
Yeah,
to
like
me, that's the most important thing of moving beyond boxes.
for sure. Being aware is like step one of the rehabilitation program. It's step one, and then you can make a decision to move forward. Because
Exactly.
if you're because you can become a zombie, you can become just. And I can't say that I was a zombie, but I was
Hmm.
very complacent, very comfortable in my kitchen in this place that was very isolated on a dirt road. Actually, I'm writing about this on Friday. I've already written it, but it talks about that experience of how I was so comfortable with where I was, and the move was that much more traumatic because I was in a comfort zone of a place
Right.
and also in a mindset of I'm good here. I can stay here. And then nothing changed. Nothing was changing. My ideas stopped coming. I was like, I was completely blocked. And that
Right.
place, I needed to break free, even though it was really, really hard. it was the best decision, even though it was traumatic. It was the best decision. And that's what you said. The realization came is like, I need to get out of this comfort zone and make some moves and be uncomfortable, because nothing good comes when we're comfortable.
No, it's so hard to do. You're just there, and what good is it if you're just there?
Yeah, you're just existing. I don't want to exist. I want to make a difference. And it wasn't going to happen in that kitchen. It just wasn't going to happen. I mean, I made some really good food in there, and I did make a lot of money. When I was working full time for this, before I became a coach,
Right.
I was making really great money in that kitchen. I was flowing. Everything was good, and I left, and I became certified. And I got a lot of things accomplished, and then it just stopped. It's like my ideas were stopping. I didn't want to post anymore. I didn't want to do anything. And I said, this is not cool. And it was basically sucking my energy. It started to suck my energy. And when you don't move forward, you move backwards. You can't stay in the same place. You're moving backwards. And that realization was like, oh, what I try to help people do and what I help people do, I was not doing, and so we are now in a new place. I walk everywhere, take my car once a week, and fill up gas once instead of 4 times. That I
There you
love.
go.
Yeah.
No, it's great. And it's just, I can see that difference between the two places. So,
yeah. Night and day.
And
love you, Susanna.
Is there anything else you want to say? Close it off with?
Nope. I'm just excited to have a good December, because I'm going to be studying. I'm actually going to access the Akashic records today for the first time. So I'm very excited about that. And that's it. I'm just looking forward to starting the new year. And usually I don't do resolutions. I don't believe in them. I just believe in being better every single day. And I wish everybody the same. And I hope that I haven't spoken about things that people go, she's a wacko. And if you did, then I'm not for you.
There you go.
But I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to share everything I shared. And I'm grateful for you embracing me and asking me to be on your show, revealing weird shit.
Reciprocity.
Well, yours wasn't weird though. Mine is.
Well, no, it depends on who the audience is at the time as to what we say, because if they get the wrong bias, it's weird.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, I don't think yours is weird, but I'm sure there's people that probably did, but they're not our people.
Exactly.
They're
Not our people. I know who my people are. It's like,
yeah.
I want to be on the stage much more. That's
that's
where I want to be.
That's amazing to me, because it took you so long to come on my show, and you were so reluctant and so shy of sharing your story. And now you have grown so much, and to this so confident, and you shine now. Like, it's amazing to me, like, bloomed, not just a caterpillar to butterfly, but you just bloomed like a blossom. It's incredible to me. When I look at both of us a year ago, we were both so different, but you especially, like, holy mackerel. It's just wonderful.
Well, it's been great kind of being on that same path with you.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to go ahead and close this out for now. So we'll say goodbye. Thank you for everybody who's been here. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to connect with Sandra. And actually, the last little pieces is, how do they connect?
Well, LinkedIn is probably the best
Okay.
because I'm really not. Facebook is for friends and family, and since I don't have any, no, I'm just kidding. I rarely go over there. So LinkedIn's good. All my featured section has all the stuff that and eventually next year it'll be changed. So stay tuned.
There you go. Okay. So even more announcements to come.
Yeah, well,
So
I'm going to have different projects and different things to offer because I'm going to be offering these sessions. So I can't wait to get certified and be able to help people on a soul level.
it's going to be great. And so with that, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you for coming and see you next time.
Bye, everybody.